You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Join me as I learn more about the common thread that weaves throughout our lives, music. Welcome to episode 9 of Tapestry. My guest today is Snyder, guitarist of the Pittsburgh-based death metal band Riparian. Throughout this episode, we riff on the misconceptions about metalheads, a connection between animal activism and music, and a lot about beer, both consuming it and getting to sponsor and brew your own. You're listening to The Nuclear Unclear, a single off Riparian's upcoming album. So, this is episode number 9 to be of Tapestry, and I'm sitting across the table from Mr. Snyder. Lou, thank you for inviting me to your house.
Oh, pleasure to have you.
With your dog, drinking your beer.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to do this for a while, since we were hanging out on the couch outside at Mr. Small's Fun House.
Well, anytime you want to come over and hang out with my dog and drink beer, I definitely open the door for people.
Sweet.
All the time. So
that's why you're a good friend. But
yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Lou, as we already explained. I play guitar in a local death metal band called Riparian. Yeah.
Local being Pittsburgh.
Yeah, local in Pittsburgh. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was just going to go into like how I kind of got to meet you, and you're sort of like my major link to the metal scene in Pittsburgh.
Really?
Which is funny because I've been in it, but like I never felt like I had an in with people. And then since I started to do the podcast, it's like, oh, suddenly I know a shitload of people. But I don't know why I'm always going to remember this, but you sent me a friend request on Facebook after I marked that I was like attending the Black Forge coffee house fundraiser thing, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? Any person that like just like attended, like I have to thank them so much for like coming out and doing that, because I for one am like a huge supporter of Black Forge Coffee, and you know I think they're doing great things for the city. Mm-hmm. One of my major things that I wanted to happen was have another venue in Pittsburgh, and whenever you have more venues, you have a stronger scene. And in this case, specifically for the metal scene, I was pretty excited just to, help out with that and like, do what I could.
Yeah, how did you kind of become involved in that? And then you would know a lot more about it than me, but like as a primer in general, Black Forge is kind of Pittsburgh's sort of coffee house / concert venue / black metal themed, satanic imagery sort of thing. Yeah. It has a very unique vibe.
I think they definitely cover a lot more ground than just that. Like helping businesses do like get their name out there with like certain pop-ups and stuff. Like I think that's a really, really cool idea, and it's very, very locally based, and I believe in helping out small businesses. Mm-hmm. And what the work that they're doing is just awesome, and bringing it to the neighborhood of McKees Rocks I think is really going to help that neighborhood take off as well, and they'll definitely be a cornerstone there for sure. Right, and
that's their second location.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know any more of the details than I did, but I showed up to this fundraising event that your band was playing at, and they basically had kind of prefaced it with, hey, we're looking at opening a second location because our current location is right next to the police precinct zone 3 or whatever, and everything's too fucking loud, and you can't have metal shows here anymore. So all I understand is basically they're like, okay, fine, we'll just open a second location. And that's just been building for months and months and months. And now it's like the release, or not the release, but kind of I just saw that they announced like that next show. Like I think next month, basically.
It's gonna happen. Like it's a real thing. Yeah. It's coming together. I think it's pretty cool just like seeing the whole start of it. Like I wasn't around for like, the first Black Forge being like built or anything, but like I lived right down the street from there, so it was always kind of like a stop all on the way into work and whatnot.
Cool.
And I just kind of grew a relationship with those guys, and just being a regular customer, and then falling in love with the place. Just seeing all the shows and how locally oriented they are. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So
I'm glad we waited to do this interview, because I finally just went there actually after we had brunch.
Oh yeah?
I went right to Black Forge, and that was sadly my first time there. And then my friend and I ended up sitting there so long that the people were loading in merch for Icarus Witch and Brimstone Coven, and I'm
awesome.
like, I should probably either pay the ticket price or get the hell out of here.
Yeah, no, it gets comfy there.
Yeah, that's a small place. I walked in and the barista's like, I said, oh, there's a show here tonight, right? She goes, oh yeah, that's the stage. And you like turn around and it's just like a little raised little stump, and that's it. So you've gotten to play on that stage.
Yeah. I don't think we all fit on that stage with our equipment and stuff, but we've played around that stage.
played it relatively in the proximity of the stage.
I've seen the new stage at the new Black Forge location, and that looks rad, actually.
What's it comparable to? Like, if you could elaborate, I guess. Spoiler alert.
Well, I know all of us are going to be able to fit on it.
Okay, that's great. So you guys barely fit on the stage at Smiling Moose, but...
Yeah. Well, we're also
you're
real tech savvy with our gear and whatnot. I know I am, at least. I'm a huge nerd whenever it comes to like pedals and like amps and stuff like that, and specific guitars and the way they're set up and whatnot. I could go into gear all day.
Oh, well, I'm going to ask you about it, I'm sure, but that's,
cool.
That's a good... I'm not a gear person because I'm not a guitarist, but I want to get there, and I feel like being in the prog world, I at least kind of have a handle on it, but I know I'm sitting 2 feet away from your Ibanez over there. And
that was actually a Christmas gift to my sister, and she just didn't want to learn how to play it anymore.
Cool,
so
free bass.
Yeah, it's basically what happened. So it's a little starter sound gear thing. I thump on it here and there, just like practice. I'm not a bass player at all.
Yeah.
But I would love to learn like the actual logistics of bass. So
see, I always think as a non-string instrument player, I'm like, well, it's just strings. I'm sure it's the same thing, but I know that it's not, and I guess that kind of leads into my main question, just about you. Like, how did you get your start in music? And did you always have a foundation for this really, you guys play these crushing, heavy, dissonant riffs. Did you start off with, like, lighter stuff, or did you just always have an attraction to that?
I ever since I was young, I always had the attraction to the heaviest thing I could get my hands on. Part of it was because, like, I knew my parents wouldn't like it. but,
that was my question. Did your parents also listen to heavy music? And I'm like, that's going to be a big no.
No, that is kind of a big no. But, like, I will say, like, my dad really liked Neil Young and, like, like anything that you'd pretty much hear on DVE.
Okay.
And I mean, that was like kind of like our thing whenever we'd be in his truck going fishing or something like that. And like just listening to DVE, that's what I grew up on. Now that's what I listen to every single morning whenever I get into my truck to
DVE?
go to work. Yeah, actually, like I love the dad rock. I guess that is the foundation of where I started with music and stuff. But as I got heavily involved into like finding out what metal was, like, death metal specifically. I remember being a kid and watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And it was that scene where, like, Cannibal Corpse plays Hammer Smash Face in that club.
Yes.
And I obviously didn't know what the hell that was at that point in time.
Yeah.
And, like, even if that was music, but, you know, I find this, like, heavy sound, and, like, I've always been attracted to that. So, yeah. And then whenever like, you know, growing up and seeing commercials, like, on, like, TV for, like, In Flames' new album or something like that. That's like...
Back when they played metal.
Yeah, well, actually, I got into them whenever Soundtrack to Your Escape just, like, started. Like, whenever, like, Anders just got into that band. And I was so into that, like, industrial, like, sound that they produced. And, like, they just had, like, these hard riffs and whatnot. Like, so cool, so cool. I love that band. And I still love that band. I know that they went into a different direction. Everybody, you know, complains about whenever they play metal and stuff.
Yeah, they like to pile on.
Yeah, but, like, I have the most respect for those guys just because they're trying to do something different. Within their scene, especially, but, like, it's all starting to sound like metalcore over there.
Have you ever heard their collaboration they did with Pendulum?
No.
The electronic group. Do you listen to Pendulum? Have you listened to Pendulum?
I've never listened to Pendulum. Okay. I'm interested.
Pendulum is one of my, like, formative bands, and they're really, to me, like, the most just incredible drum and bass band, but I didn't know who In Flames was, and I actually learned who two major, like, every person who listens to prog and metal should know artists from Pendulum, because on the same album they did a song with Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree. But it was just, like, this weird mashup, you know, you're hearing all these, like, weird synths and stuff, and then In Flames is just riffing hard ass over it. It's such a great song, but I didn't grow up listening to that.
I know that they did, like, some, like, real digital, like, boop 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 sounds with, like, you know, My Sweet Shadow, like, that song. That was, like, one of the, like, first songs that I listened to. Like, actually, Free Fall was the first song I've ever listened to by In Flames. And then I've got, like, their albums, their CDs at, like, Media Play whenever, like, I was, like, a kid. Yeah. I feel like I'm really old saying Media Play.
You're
because,
younger
like,
than me, aren't you?
I'm 28. I'm 28.
Oh, me too. Okay. Never mind. All right, so 90s kids. Yeah. Media Play. Going to FYE, South Hills Village.
Yeah. Like. No, I was at Media Play in Ross Park Mall whenever it was, like, right across the hallway from Spencer's, and now that's what is that? That's an H&M now.
So it's probably nothing.
I went there and bought pants one time, and sadly did not fit them. I'm too voluptuous for their clothes.
H&M is cut really small. Like,
yeah, they are.
I'm like a women's 12, and they're like, "Oh, you're a 49 at H&M." I'm like, "Oh, it's because you're European sizes and you're bullshit." Yeah. My friend went to Germany, I think, and he got his luggage stolen. So basically, like, he had literally the clothes on him. And they had to get off the airplane, and he's like, "Oh, there's an H&M over there," and he's pretty small. Yeah. And he's like, "The only pair of pants I had, it was like painted on me." Like, that's H&M for you.
Yeah. We're also American.
Whatever. Well, so In Flames. Okay, so In Flames kind of planted that seed for you. How long have you been playing guitar? And did you play other instruments? Because you just walked me upstairs and you have a drum set. But I know you as a guitarist primarily.
I started playing, like, trumpet in 3rd grade.
Nice.
If that counts.
That counts.
As, like, any sort of musical background.
It's a start.
But I started actually messing around with guitar whenever I got to 9th grade in high school. So that was about, like, 2004. I was very reluctant to have, like, a class in school that actually taught me, like, basic chords and like, you know, how to play. It was like guitar 1, guitar 2.
Yeah.
And like advanced classes guitar 3, you know, which I think they actually just made up for me to like pass school because
you're the only guy who's interested.
Yeah. But it was a really awesome program that I, as an adult, come to really appreciate, just because that's, you know, basic chords, and then like I love playing so much that my mom actually got me lessons out at a music shop that's no longer there out in Wexford called Music Innovations. Mm-hmm. And my guitar teacher, his name was Lenny Muckle, which I know,
hell of a name.
Yeah, it's a great name. Like you know that guy just shreds guitar because his name is Lenny Muckle.
Rigs of Dad.
Yeah, Rigs of Dad. He played like this like Ovation, and I loved it. And like he taught me like scales and like, you know, more chords, and like just like how to riff and stuff and play solos over like, you know, tracks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And from there, like after that, I kind of stopped taking lessons. I would love to take lessons again, but I kind of stopped taking lessons, and like, you know, YouTube took over for that. Mm-hmm. And right. I started learning how to like do more technical things like sweep picking and you know, like different scales that like, you know, he didn't teach me, but you know.
Well, I remember when we first had a chance to kind of sit down and chat, and we were talking about podcasts, and that's what like hatched this whole idea. You were saying how Gojira is a huge influence for you. Absolutely. And also necrophagist. So yes, I finally did my due diligence on looking them up earlier, and like I'd heard of necrophagist, but I didn't understand their connection to Obscura, all those guys.
Oh yeah.
And like, I mean, shit. And I asked a couple friends. I was like, I don't feel prepared for this interview because I know nothing about necrophagist, and they're like, well, did you know that Muhammad had to learn guitar in a closet so that his dad wouldn't know that he was learning guitar? Like, when you think your life is rough, imagine him learning how to do, like, pinch harmonics in a closet.
Yeah.
It was just crazy.
I actually never knew that. So, Muhammad is basically the Harry Potter of, like, the guitar world.
Under the staircase.
Underneath the staircase, just playing away and, like...
It blows my mind, though, that he is also doing the vocals, correct?
Yeah.
While he's doing all this insane shit. But mm-hmm. I think about, like, when they were active... I mean, so when did you pick them up? Because they, you know, they're kind of, like, ceasing to exist, but they were really active in that whole scene in the late 90s and stuff, like Cynic and Gorguts and some of those bands that are like totally changing what death metal means and like leading the front for it.
I think I probably picked them up around like 2010.
Oh, so you had their entire catalog to go through at that point.
Yeah, at that point in time, 2010, I like just listened to them and was in awe of like, I didn't even know that like, you know, he was like the vocalist at that point in time while playing all this crazy riffage. And it really, really inspired me to like try to pick up vocals and playing at the same time. And I never really had like a band where like I could do that with. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just like started, you know, saying random things like vocalizing while like I would do like riffs and stuff, like practicing in front of my amp, like under my breath, because like it feels kind of embarrassing.
Yeah,
to, like,
I totally get that. Yeah, you're like screaming a word to nobody in your house alone. Yeah.
And, like, for some reason, all the words always start with D whenever, like, you scream them. So you're like, death, destruction. And, like, you're just, you know, doing your little riff underneath that and stuff. And totally embarrassing myself in front of nobody. In front of my dog, actually.
In front of your dog. And I wasn't sure when Gojira kind of came in, too. But
Gojira came in... around the same time, actually, and I know both of those bands are like very different in each way, but like I definitely felt more connected by the vocals and like the driving riffs in Gojira, just because like the lyrics like got to me, especially in their new album, just with like their mother passing away and stuff like that, and it really reflected into my life as a person and stuff. And I guess like the beauty in their lyrics is that whatever situation that you're going through, you could kind of relate into it, whether it's losing a loved one, breaking up with a girlfriend, anything really. It's just
toxic garbage island, just floating away on one.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I wasn't sure if you had a connection to Gojira, quite honestly, because I know that you're a vegan and you're an animal lover, and I know that Gojira is more into the whole environmental stewardship thing, but they're also huge animal lovers.
That's a big thing about them, too, actually. Like, especially with, whenever From Mars to Sirius came out, and, like, most of that money went to, saving the whales.
Right,
stuff.
It's kind of a meme at this point, but
it definitely is.
I didn't know that though until recently that they actually let there's like a sea shepherd conservation or something.
Yeah.
And they like have a merch table set up at all their shows, which I saw them when they were here in Pittsburgh. I didn't notice it, but I think that's sick. Like I love that a band that has become so, I don't want to say commercially successful, but at least in the metal world, they've ascended to, really one of the greatest bands of our generation, and
Absolutely.
That's awesome that they have a platform like that.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely deserve that recognition as well, just because they're so good.
They're so great. They're good people.
Like, and they're not like technical with the guitar either. Like they play good driving riffs, and that's what I love about them. And that's what makes me want to be a better guitarist too. Just because like I can't tell you how many times I'm like sitting at work and like I have Flying Whale stuck in my head, just like
it's infectious. It's like kind of
like, and then I have to listen to that song 5 times.
There's so much going on in their stuff, and like they're really a band that transcends genres. And I actually remember that when we were sitting on the couch outside the Monolord show, and we were bitching about subgenres and why do metalheads love subgenre classification so much? It's kind of dumb when you think about it, but it's also maybe just this primal tendency for us to want to label everything. So
yeah. I think you nailed it on the head right there. I don't think we need to explain about
that. No, we were talking about Batushka and some like, oh, what's your favorite Polish black metal band? Oh, do you have more than one? Like, I don't know. Do I? It's kind of dumb, but you were asking me about guilty pleasures. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember what you answered, so I'd love to ask you again. What are your guilty pleasure bands? Which, if I remember correctly, your point was there shouldn't be a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
you should just like the bands you like.
Yeah, there really shouldn't be any guilty pleasures. And if I have any guilty pleasures, it's listening to DVE.
Dad rock.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess on to some more business-related questions. I know Riparian has, like, you guys are on a lot of shows. I mean, you do a lot in the booking process, you do a lot in the promoting process, and I think your influence here in Pittsburgh is pretty well known, but, like, how did you get to joining this band? Did you have previous bands? And, like, what kind of led up to doing what you're doing now with that group of guys?
I guess I'll start at the beginning whenever I started playing music and being in like my first band, because Riparian's only my second band. I've had like projects in between where I record something and I have like a friend of mine. We're actually releasing an album for that pretty soon. We'll get onto that later on in the conversation. I was in a Christian metalcore band for a really long time called Bought in Blood, and that was like the start of like me playing music and stuff in Pittsburgh, and I got to know a lot of like really cool people just through playing like that music right there. And I never really cared about like making it big or doing anything like that. It's just like, let's just play, let's have fun, and if it happens, like, things will happen. We went on tour for a while, and made a lot of really cool friends, like in Kentucky and, you know, Tennessee areas and stuff like that, and that was pretty awesome. But after that was like done, I started doing like other projects, and, you know, I actually reached out to a good friend of mine that I met on Craigslist.
Oh, nice.
And he was like one of the most tremendous vocalists I've ever met in my life, Christopher Krantz. And we got to be such good friends that I was actually a groomsman in his wedding.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's really cool.
Groomsman,
but like
Craigslist groomsman.
Yeah. But we just got done recording a project called Gentleman, and whenever we release that, we're gonna probably do like a little like fun thing online or something like that. But every dollar that we get for this album is actually going to go towards Hurry Home Hounds, which is a greyhound rescue for a couple of our friends that rescue greyhounds and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so just like helping them, you know, get toys, food, maybe building them like another doghouse or something like that. You never know. I don't know what they need.
Are they based in Pittsburgh?
They're Sydney, who is like one of the main people that run the organization. She actually lives right out in Coriopolis. So yeah, that's where I want to like invest money into. I want to invest money into animals because animals are better than people.
Fair enough.
I don't mean that in a cruel way. I love dogs.
I love your dog.
Yeah.
Over there, Tonka.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's very good.
But after doing that for so long, and then I actually met my friend Brooks, my friend now Brooks. He was going to like Onion Maiden pop-ups and stuff like that. Little did I know he was actually one of the owners of Onion Maiden.
Yeah. Oops, sorry, you're actually the owner.
Yeah. But I was like, this guy's cool. I'm gonna buy him a beer. And then like we got to know each other, and I met him like formally, him and his wife Dingo, at Cattle Decapitation. Whenever they played at Cattle.
What a date!
Yeah.
Going to Cattle Decapitation.
Right?
Okay.
And I just like, I talked to the dude. I was just like, hey man, I got a vocalist and I'm a guitar player, and he was a bass player with a drummer, and you know, things kind of just like kicked off from there. So I view him and myself as like kind of like the starters of like this band, and we're both kind of like the brainchilds of like what goes into play, and like, you know, what shows we'll want to play, and like what we invest our money into for the band and stuff like that.
Well, I imagine it also helps too. So Brooks is he's what, co-owner of Onion Maiden?
No, he's an owner.
The actual
owner.
Okay.
Like he's like, him and his wife both own that place.
Okay, and Onion Maiden for people listening is like a great place that I've never been. Another place I need to go. But yeah, it's a like vegan and vegetarian metal themed restaurant in Pittsburgh. So that's an awesome way to both promote your business and your band when, you know, when you're a vegan and you only have so many options for eating out, and you're like, well, I'm gonna go to Onion Maiden today. Oh, P.S. the owner is like this sick bass player.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
He's the nastiest bass player I've ever met.
And science teacher, correct?
Yeah, he's a science teacher too. So he's like He's like the busiest person I've ever met in my life. Like,
I'm amazed I've gotten to meet him a couple times now,
Yeah.
because he's actually probably always working.
I'm pretty sure he's a wizard and he slows down time. So, like, I don't understand how you can own a business, also be a teacher, play hockey in your spare time,
Oh, God.
also be in a band, and maintain a marriage.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a problem with just work myself.
Work and band.
Yeah, work and band.
He's a hard-working dude.
Yeah, he is. And, like, that's... all that is, like, kind of... He and I both work really hard on, like, this band and stuff, for sure. And, like, I don't want to discredit the other guys because they work very hard as well. Just for everything that we do.
So I know that you guys recently, well, it was probably about, 2 or 3 months ago maybe at this point, you were in Baltimore recording some stuff, correct? You have a new EP coming out?
we have like a 5-song EP coming out through Grimoire Records. We recorded at Brooks's buddies. I would call them buddies, I guess, because they were just talking about beer the entire time. And we recorded at Noel's Tiny Castle, and it was definitely an experience. It was the first time I got to like record actually with like the full band, like all at the same time, and that was a pretty cool experience. Like instead of just like sitting there with like a metronome in my ear, and I guess that's the proper way to record, but I guess there is no proper way to record because you're recording and you come out with a good product either way. So
right, true, but like
matter.
you get to experience the chemistry and the live aspect of it.
Yeah, there's definitely like a rough live aspect about the album that we have coming out, and I don't like saying rough because everything's definitely polished in the end.
Yeah.
Like you have like different flubs here and there that you play on guitar or drums or anything. Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, I think the tendency now with production, and I'm still kind of getting used to this too, the tendency now with production with a lot of modern metal records is just to make it as tidy and compressed and clean as possible.
Yeah.
What's your sort of philosophy on that?
If it sounds good, let it rip.
Okay.
Because like
that's some straight talk.
Yeah. No, because like there's like I feel like in a lot of like grindcore bands or like hardcore bands even, like you hear like a tiny like note off or like a tiny like pick scrape that might not be right to the guitarist, like, or like the drummer or like anybody in that band, but there's definitely emotion behind the actual playing, and I feel like that in itself is what makes a unique album. It makes it not sound like everybody else, because like I feel like some of the progressive stuff has really gotten to sound a lot alike.
Oh, I can, as a big prog nerd, I can totally agree with you.
Yeah, like...
I used to be like, oh, I love gent, and now I'm like, I hate gent, except for the exceptions to gent, because it all sounds like the same axe effects, bullshit that you just run through your amp. And
I feel like there's definitely something special about getting a guitar tone or like a snare hit or... like even your bass drum sound with like the different amounts of velocity that you hit like the drums or like the strings or anything like that. I definitely feel like there is a lot of emotion that is also connected within that music itself, and I feel like that's what makes a really good album. Like I'll bring it around to Gojira again, and like that's one of the most their newest album is like one of the most emotional like albums I've ever listened to in my entire life.
And it's not extremely polished. I mean, sure, the production quality is good, but it has a kind of rawness to it that's really powerful. Yeah,
for sure.
A lot of people didn't like what's Magma, correct?
Yeah.
A lot of people did not like that album because they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like Gojira, but I love that album.
I really think they're evolving into the band that they want to be, more than the band that everybody else wants them to be. And I think that's a great thing. I think there should be evolution and changes of sound for like a band, and you could listen to them progress as musicians in the long run. You know, even some of the bands that have been so consistent with their sound and have never made like a bad album, like a perfect example is the Black Dahlia Murder. Like, they've had so many different like member changes, but like they still sound like the same band over and over again, like on each album. And I don't think that they've ever produced a bad album.
Right.
But like Gojira, for instance, you know, they started out like, you know, almost heavy metal breakdowny with just like rough vocals over top of it, and they've evolved like into somewhat of a progressive metal band with the way they transition, you know, their style and everything like into songs. And like, whenever I first listened to Magma, it didn't make sense to me because I was expecting, you know, Mars Assyrius again, because that's my favorite album.
Heaviest Matter of the Universe or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was expecting that album again, and it took me another listen to get it. And I just fell in love with it.
Yeah. I think that's a really valid point, is part of the thing I love about music is, I hate that it turns into this pissing contest. Like, who can sell more albums? Who can make a better album? You know, you can't see the air quotes, but better album. Like, every person's going to have some attachment to music, whether it's emotional, like if you're going through a breakup or the death of someone. You can't judge music objectively, nor can you undermine its importance to someone at a certain point in their life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what it sounds like at the end of the day. As long as it's proficient sounding, I guess, to me, if music is proficient sounding, then it's good.
Yeah.
I might not particularly care for it, but if it sounds like they took more than 20 minutes to write the song and kind of put some effort into it, it's probably going to be okay.
Yeah. But there's also bands out there that like take 5 seconds to write a song, and they just sound amazing.
That's true. I guess that's real mastery there.
Well, no, like just some of the grindcore and hardcore stuff that you hear out there. That's just like, hey, let's blast beat over this riff. Okay, and then they do it, and it sounds awesome, and then I love it.
Well, hey, I guess it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there and you.
If you get
enjoy
there, and if you put out a good product, that's all that matters. Like at the end of like the recording session, at the end of a hard practice of like trying to write something, even if it is like a riff, even to like attach to the song that you've been working on for like a month, you know. If it takes a month to work on a song, I guess it takes months to work on a song. We've been working on songs for months, I guess, to just try to make them catchy and try to make them good to our standards. Because I don't know, I'm very particular about like my riffing and stuff whenever it comes to guitar.
I believe something that I will never forget you saying was that you think that tone comes from the fingers.
Yes, absolutely.
I like that opinion.
Yeah, well. It comes from the fingers. It comes from the player itself. Like if you flub on a note here or there, it's not going to sound good. Like through, like you could be playing on, you know, the nicest guitar, like a $10,000 guitar, and you could plug in through, you know, 7 Marshall full stacks and like ring out or something. But if like your technique isn't there as far as playing and stuff goes, like it's not going to sound good. I'm sure it'll sound good to you because it's just like, holy crap, this thing is
this is a $10,000 guitar.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I would love to play a $10,000 guitar if I had the chance to.
Oh yeah, so now's your chance to talk a little bit about gear. Like what are your goals kind of in the next year maybe for the band, and then tell me a little bit about, like, you kind of have this chase for, like, oh, I know you sold a guitar recently. You're kind of, like, starting to upgrade. So
yeah.
Is that kind of like, oh, Riparian's on the upward swing. I gotta make sure we're working with the best stuff possible.
I actually, like, traded in 2 guitars to get a Carvin Kessel.
That's more of a prog guitar.
It's a very, very prog guitar.
Yeah, that's what Chris Latchford plays.
Yeah.
That's all those guys play.
But I just traded in like an Ibanez and like this Godin guitar to Guitar Center, and my buddy Sean actually really hooked me up with that deal. And I also traded in like a couple pedals that I like never use anymore. I don't ever play those guitars anymore. I didn't use these pedals at all, so why not get something that, you know, plays really awesome.
When you saw it, did you just know? Like, that's what I don't experience.
No,
I'm
actually,
not a guitarist. Like,
it was
perfect.
It was one of those things where, like, I saw it and I was just like, oh yeah, that brand. I'll give it a shot. And, like, I played it, and I probably sat in Guitar Center for, like, a good, like, half hour, 45 minutes just riffing on this thing through, like, one of their, like, setup 6505s that they had there. It's a, metal amp. But I played through that thing, and, like, I was just like, oh my god, my fingers are flying on this thing.
You just knew.
Like, I just knew right there that I had to have it, and it was kind of like taking a drag on a cigarette. And then, like, you go, like, your friend's cigarette in, like, high school, and then you go to, like, the mini mart down the street and you give them the fake ID that your stepdad gave you, and then you just, you know, buy a pack of cigarettes yourself, and then you start smoking, and then, you know, that's what that guitar was like. I don't know if anybody out there had that same experience.
It's a very specific experience.
And my stepdad didn't actually give me a fake ID, so Mom, if you're listening, please don't assume Ronnie's a bad guy.
But I think what you're getting at is, like, it's that thrill of, like, ooh, like,
it was a thrill.
This is perfect.
And, like, I had to trade in all my gear to get that.
So better work.
Yeah,
better work.
As far as, like, gear and stuff goes, I love my Paul Reed Smith guitar. That thing just produces a tone that I can't get out of any other guitar. It doesn't even sound like the Carvin Kessel guitar that I have either, which is kind of cool because I like versatility in sounds as well. But it sounds amazing, and I don't know. I kind of chase the dragon whenever it comes to tone and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a particular guitar idol that you're kind of like, oh man, that's the sound I'm going for?
As far as sound, I would actually have to say I'm gonna bring it back around to In Flames. Okay. I think Clayman is one of the best recorded albums out there as far as, like, guitar and drum tone go. Like, that's kind of what I strive for with, like, tone like there. And that's actually where I picked up, like, playing with a 5150 amp. And, like, I needed that tone. I needed that tone in my life. I loved that crunch. Crunch. So, yeah, it was awesome. But that's what I, like, kind of strive for. And I totally achieved that and more because I love my guitar tone now.
So it's not just a prog thing. I mean, I know it's not just a prog thing, but when I think of people who are, like, tone snobs, I think of prog nerds.
Yeah.
Not death metal, but that's not to diminish death metal, because death metal, I think a lot of people think, is just, like, heavy and fast and angry, like that there's no nuance to it, which is just simply not true.
No, there's a particular sound I think everybody looks for, but I also think that particular sound comes from the studio engineer that's, like, recording said band, and I don't think the band really knows what they're capable of making whenever it comes down to it, but, like, having that engineer in the studio really bring out, like, those tones and, like, the, you know, the dynamics of, like, every instrument, it really helps, like, put everything together.
Yeah, because I imagine, like, when you guys are at a band practice and you're just kind of dicking around, coming up with stuff, you know, shooting ideas off each other, that's going to sound like, that's going to boost your confidence. But then when you step into a professional recording studio and you kind of hear everything come together for the first time, that's got to make you look around and be like, oh my god, this sounds so great. Like,
yeah, I think actually what really made me love the album that we put out was the vocals, because I don't think anybody really knows what their vocalist sounds like until they get into the studio. And our vocalist Rob just sounds like a really pissed off orc.
He does. That's true.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys live. He does.
He also has like the same stature on stage as a pissed off orc because his chest gets really up, like, and like he just holds the mic in front of him and he does like the claw thing with his hand and stuff. Yeah, he's awesome. My dog's back.
Yeah, hi Tonka.
Hey. If I could have any other vocalist, it'd probably be my dog. We'd probably have like a K9S cover band.
I was gonna say, yeah, I know they did that album. That like all dog related stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Hatebeak?
I have heard of Hatebeak.
Oh my god. I've never ever had a chance to bring up Hatebeak on my podcast, but now I have. I'm so happy.
Yeah, if you ever want to listen to like the most pissed off parrot ever, totally listen to Hatebeak.
It's kind of unironically good. Like, I was listening to it a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh.
It's almost...
It actually required some thought. It wasn't just somebody taking their parrot and, like, sticking them in front of a mic.
But almost, like, at the same time, I also think of, like, that death metal rooster, like, on, like, YouTube that everybody has tagged whoever likes metal in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about metal, but here's a parrot, or here's a rooster doing metal.
Yeah.
So.
Just, here's a bunch of blast beats in front of a rooster going,
It's perfect. It's so true, though. Like I think about that, how many people I'm friends with on Facebook who are, like, just, you know, my metalhead friends, and it's, like, all the memes get shared within your little circle of friends, like the thing you sent me the other day that I replied with Lars Ulrich. I get so excited when I find a metal meme that somebody else hasn't already sent to me, and I'm like, I'm not even in a band. Like, I'm just a fan. Like, I feel like I'm on the outskirts of it. I mean, I guess I'm sort of in the scene, but I really feel like I'm not that much because I'm kind of on the outskirts. I, like, know all the people, but I'm not one of the movers and shakers. No. And people are like, oh, you're in it. Here's a metal meme.
My guitarist Dan sent me that meme. It was just this dude sitting in front of an MRI machine, and, like, the guy's asking, like, how's it looking, doc? And, like, the doctor's just sitting there with, like... he's just sitting there with, like Fruity Loops open, and he's just like, oh, man, this... snare tone sounds like shit. Immediately just think of Saint Anger. Which clearly was recorded on a garbage can. Anytime like a bad snare comes into like talk,
I have to understand like whose idea was that. It does literally sound like fucking garbage. Just awful.
It was probably Lars's idea.
It probably was.
Because I feel like that guy is slowly unlearning how to play drums. Because I think, like, if you look at, like, the documentaries and stuff, he's the biggest diva in the studio.
He is. He's like a giant dickbag.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for everybody else in Metallica because he just, like, he throws little temper tantrums. And then I love that video of him when... James, I think it's James or like somebody in the audience at a live show, they had like that giant black balloon thing, and they like throw it at Lars and it hits him in the head and he's like trying to play and it just hits him like directly in the face, like it's like the size of a Pilates ball and it just bops him in the head and I'm like, you deserve it, you asshole. Says me, like, you know, I'm never gonna reach the skill level of Lars from Metallica, but I guess you can still point out when people are kind of assholes.
I'm never gonna make as much money as them, so they win in the long run. So
yeah.
Then again, I don't really care about money.
Right. Well, somebody brought this up recently, but like, what would you agree or disagree with the statement? The idea of bands is dead, and let me elaborate. Like, you think about bands like Led Zeppelin and just stuff from our parents' generation where they just ascended to such a level of stardom, and they, like, pre-streaming, pre-sales and stuff, they were able to make their living off going on these massive tours, and the expectation is that you can be a celebrity and be in a band, and that's how you make your retirement. But being in a band now is very different. And a lot of people like you guys, you kind of just are doing it for fun, but it sure would be nice if you could take off and suddenly be able to quit your day jobs. Like, would you agree with that sort of, that the idea of bands like being this big giant thing is kind of dead?
Not necessarily. I think that, like, I don't think that we've reached the potential of gimmicks yet. And I
there's
feel
always
like,
more.
Yeah, there's always more gimmicks. I think if, like, those bands back in the day, they had, like, their certain things, like, that they did. But, like, I guess the internet also ruined a lot of things for, like, music as well, because it's so accessible now.
Right.
This is a random story, but, like, a friend of mine at, like, an old job, he's about, like, 45, and he said, like, one of the most proud things that he did whenever he was a kid after, like, delivering all these papers and stuff was getting on his bike and then going over to Farmore.
Oh my god, Farmore, that's a thing I haven't heard in years.
Yeah, we talked about media play and everything already, but, like, we're gonna go way back to, like, Farmore days. I guess Farmore...
Ames.
Yeah.
Ames.
Yeah, them too. I guess, like, those places had, like, a music section in, like, their store. And he said, like, the best thing he's ever done was, like, going and picking up, like, Black Sabbath's, like, album, like, at a Farmore and, like, riding home on his bike, like, about to go listen to this, like, sick vinyl, like... And, like, he put the album, like, facing out so everybody can see that he was, like, listening to Black Sabbath and everything, which is totally something I would have done whenever I was 12. But yeah, I think, like, an adventure to go out and get an album is kind of dead. Unless you actually go and see the band live,
right?
While they're doing this release or something like that. But, like, yeah, that gimmick's gone and done. I think that, like, there's plenty more gimmicks out there to get people to buy music in that sort of way. But I guess we were talking more about, like, style than anything. Like, we have Led Zeppelin and, like, like you mentioned before. But there's also bands out there that are, like, copying the sound of Led Zeppelin.
Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually really like that. I will admit, I'm
a giant hypocrite. I've only listened to, like, 2 songs.
Yeah.
I'm just parroting what I hear on the internet, is that they're essentially a shittier modern Led Zeppelin cover band.
No, they're not. They're not bad at all. I actually really like them.
Fine. I'll listen to them on my way home.
Yeah. I think they're awesome, and I think that style, that classic rock style, still has, like, a lot more room to grow, just because we have, like, so many different effects pedals nowadays and so many, like, advances in technology. So I think there's definitely going to be like a rock revival, not now, not maybe in, like, 10 years,
right? But,
like, whenever it becomes, like, vintage and cool enough again, I feel like that's going to happen. Well,
look how big, too, I mean, and you can elaborate more on this because I wanted to ask you, but look how big festivals are again. You think the popularity of jam bands, like stuff like Fish and of course back in the day, Grateful Dead, think about the popularity of having that experience, going to a live show. It's almost less about buying the music and being able to listen to it later. It's like seeking out the experience of being in a live show. And festivals are huge now. And it's like, oh, I want to make sure I'm getting a lot for my money. So I'm going to go to Rock on the Range and spend $250, but I'm going to see, like, 46 bands. And
which is really awesome because, like, I feel like even if you go there to, like, just, like, experience, like, 1 or 2 bands that you might, like, see... Seeing a band live is completely different than, like, hearing their record or whatever.
Absolutely.
Just because, like, you experience the, like, and I'll bring it around again to emotion within the music and stuff. You see the emotion live. You see the actual, like, pyrotechnics or whatever they have going on during the show. And that in itself just gives that band their like niche, like their, you know, their place to be something.
I know Brutal Beer Fest was a thing that you guys got heavily involved in, and I just was curious about like kind of what that is, what its involvement or what its relationship to Pittsburgh is, and sort of how Riparian got involved in that.
So Brutal Beer Fest is a festival. We'll start it at that.
Yeah.
And basically what they do is they just take a bunch of the local breweries from around here and they put them all in one building, and they take a couple bands from around like Pittsburgh to collaborate a beer with a certain brewery that is going to be there. And Riparian actually had the pleasure of doing Brutal Beer Fest with North Country Brewing.
That's the one up in Slippery Rock, right?
Yeah, they're up in Slippery Rock. They also have like a couple different locations that are like affiliated with them that are like closer in the area. Like I guess the closest place would be like the Harmony Inn that's like up by like Zillionople.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know where the Christmas market is.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't know that they were up there.
Yeah, they're
I love Harmony.
Yeah, the
town.
Harmony Inn. Like I think our beer is actually on tap up there right now.
Oh, that's sweet.
So.
Did you guys name it? Did you get a chance to develop it?
We actually named it the Nuclear Unclear, which is, I guess, the single on the new album that we have. But yeah, it's a, like, if you're like into beer at all, it's a very tasty beer. It's a peach saison with like rye overtones, I guess. Like. I guess like
sounds fancy.
Yeah, like those guys could explain it better to you than I could. Brooks probably knows the recipe like offhand because he just knows beer. So
fair enough.
I'm perfectly happy with just like my Pabst and you know a shot of Jameson. That's like all I really need. But like I love like trying different beers and stuff just because it's a little different flavor in my life.
Yeah, no, that's great. I loved, I know you guys had that promo image and you got to basically shoot a music video like in the brewery in North Country, right?
Yeah, okay. They built like this like backdrop wall of kegs for us. With
the forklift.
Yeah, and that itself was just really cool, but like seeing all of the like different places that we could actually stand in front of and like
look really cool.
Yeah, essentially. Like there's just like a giant wall of cans that they had there that like Brooks stood in front of and just thumped his bass in front of, and I hope there's outtakes and bloopers to it because he actually fell during like the taping and stuff. And I thought that was really funny. I was also obliterated drunk at that point in time too. So anything.
Was it before or after the part where there's the part in your promo trailer where somebody just like opens the tap and the beer is just like cascading into your mouth?
That was actually towards the end of it. That was like kind of like the grand finale, the grand finale money shot, if you will.
I will post the trailer with this episode because it's worth watching.
Yeah. But it's I was pretty fucked up.
So with Brutal Beer Fest though, do the organizers do they kind of like scan all the bands that are going to be there and go, okay, Riparian's going to be with North Country and Greywalker's going to be with, blah, 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 brewery. Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how that, like, selection is made, like, who gets to, go with what. I guess, like, Riparian got paired up with North Country because North Country actually had a beer called Riparian. Before, and they wanted to like pitch the idea of like doing that beer again with us, but we didn't really want to do a rye beer, but they still snuck some rye into our beer,
right? Rye overtones.
Yeah. But like they definitely did it right for sure, but that's kind of how like we got like affiliated with each other, was just because of like such a similarity in our names. And I think it's kind of silly and like a happy coincidence that we got to, be with, North Country. North Country was actually the first place I've ever tried craft beer at.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
They're really taking off, too.
It came full circle to me, and I was, like, super stoked about that. Just because, like, I had so much appreciation for it, for sure. And, like, I probably spilt my heart out to, like the brewers there. Like, oh, this means so much to me. But, like, I don't know. That's just the type of person I am, too.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate the people in my surroundings, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have a big heart, and I think you're a big supporter of a lot of things, and that's important. You have been very involved in the local scene. Like, do you have any major aspirations for that arm of it? I mean, obviously you're in a band, and you're friends with people in a bunch of other local bands like Whorehound and Jake the Hawk and all those guys, but, like, is that almost more important to you than being in the band, just supporting the scene?
Supporting the scene's a big part of it, for sure. I think what my personal goal is within the scene is just to be supportive of other people's bands, and supportive of people that want to start playing music within like the scene.
Me?
Yeah. Raise that hand up high.
Yeah.
But, like, I want to see, like, even, like, kids, like, music was a big thing for me whenever I was a kid. It was a really good escape from a lot of the things that have happened in my life that I won't go into detail with. But it's important to me, and if other people can experience music the way I have with, playing like in a band or, writing a song and being able to perform that and displaying their emotions, just in that itself is awesome, and it could save their life. If I help produce something like that, it's an honor. It really is. So keeping the scene alive, it's very, very alive right now, and like I know I don't have a hand in that at all. It's all the other amazing musicians around Pittsburgh.
I think that's a lie. I think you have a big hand in it.
No. There's definitely
don't sell yourself short. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to. Like, I don't want to really take credit for that, because like I feel like there's already so much talent out there that like is on display. If I can help promote it in any way, I totally will. Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing to me right now is promoting things for a good cause, and music is a good cause. The businesses that we have surrounding music are good causes. Breweries with Brutal Beer Fest.
Beer and music is a double win.
it is. Black Forge doing what they do, coming full circle to that too. Those people are making a difference in the community for sure. And if I can do something with music to help that, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And like I know the guys that are with me in my band are gonna do that as well. So it's just that's just what I do.
Yeah, no, I know that you really do place an importance on that, and I gotta say, this past weekend being at the Whorehound release show, I just had warm fuzzies the entire night. Like, shout out to everybody in Whorehound and Pirate and Lady Beast and everyone that I got to meet. Like, it just made me feel like there is a flourishing, comfortable and supportive scene here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I wish every town had that. I mean, granted, Pittsburgh's a larger city, but it's really not that huge, And that's what I like about it, is that whether it's metal or electronica or folk or whatever, like, everybody can kind of go out to a show and start to involve themselves in the scene and find a band they like and find a person they want to meet and get to know, and you just become like this big family. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And like, I think you've been a big part of that, and it's been interesting too. Like I was saying, I'm just a podcaster. like I'm a music fan, but I'm not in a band yet. I'm working on it. But it's cool that even the fans can sort of be like brought into that little fold, and it's just like a big old love fest. Like, I love going to shows and seeing the same people I've run into at every show.
Yeah, like that Whorehound show was like a definite, like...
It was a friggin' metalhead orgy. It was like everyone there. I mean, I walked in, I see Amanda, I see Brendan, I see Shy, I see, Cam, everybody, like everyone there that I've gotten to meet just from going to $10 ticket shows. I'm like, if you don't want to put your money where your mouth is,
totally.
You can meet so many great people for pretty cheap, and you get these really nice connections with people.
Yeah, for sure. That was, like, that show is actually my first time seeing, like, Lady Beast.
Really?
And,
my God.
And I was, like, so stoked the entire time because of all the, like, guitar licks and stuff that were going on.
Shout out to Deb, because she, I asked her if she would be on the podcast, but I was going to get introduced to her through a friend, and then I went up to her and she's like, hey, we're Instagram friends. Like, I mean, the scene is not big. The scene is not big. It's very tight.
That's one of the plus sides that I feel like the internet has brought us, is like making the world a little bit smaller, especially within like the music scene, because everybody knows everybody through everybody.
Yes. Yeah, and if you have a knack for networking or even knack for talking like I do, you just kind of like get to learn who, what band are you in?
Absolutely.
I love it. No, it's speaking of that though too, like I don't know, that whole show was great, and like you're just there with a bunch of people that kind of are like experiencing the same thing you are, and they're having a blast. But I think it's funny. I showed some of my coworkers that picture of you where you like multiplied your head like 30 times with a giant beard, and it was like so terrifying but so great. But I think like when I think of a metalhead, I think of you. Like, you fit the image. You have the gauged ears and the tattoos and the nose piercing and the giant Viking beard. Like, what do you think is the biggest misconception about metalheads in general? Because I'm one too, but I wear business casual every day, 5 days a week, and I don't really, I don't really look the part.
I think a really good introduction to people that want to know what a metalhead is, or like even just their personalities, is just watching Metalocalypse that was on like Adult Swim. Because you have like the elitist personality. You have the guy that gets way too stoned and way too drunk. And you also have what I like to relate to, which is like Toki Wartooth as like the fun-loving teddy bear of, that sort of scene.
Kind of doesn't fit the image.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. Like, it doesn't fit the image at all, but like that dude is totally riding a unicorn over a rainbow and stuff, and like that's me.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Like, I described myself recently as a golden retriever, and I think it's pretty fitting, because I might be wearing like a battle vest, but I'll just go up to people at shows, be like, oh, what's your favorite band? Like, I don't know, there's just some connection that you have with people that like the same music you do, and it's hard to really replace that. It doesn't matter what you look like, and I always try to explain this to my normie coworkers. Like, they're like, oh, you went to a show on Saturday? How was it? I'm like, you're never gonna understand, but it was great. Thanks for asking. Like, there's just a lot of outside versus inside. Yeah.
I actually got one of the guys that I work with to go to Brutal Beer Fest, and he stayed for like a good bit of it.
Did he stay for Dying Fetus?
He didn't stay for Dying Fetus. He actually had to go home to like take care of something. I think like his furnace blew up or something that. So, totally logical reason to leave that show, because your fiance is at home cold and like texting you the entire time saying, where are you?
Yeah.
He went to Brutal Beer Fest, and he was like really surprised with the crowd and stuff, because everybody was just super chill, like to hang out with.
Yeah.
So,
very
and like
accepting.
You think that like putting a bunch of like really really big people in a room with each other that look tough, dress in black, wear satanic imagery or anything like that, in a room together with a bunch of beer that it would end up being a riot at the end of it.
Right.
But everybody ended up just, it was a family at the end of the night.
Right.
Like, everybody got along. I'm sure, you know, there are scuffles here or there just because you can't avoid those at shows.
No, it's true. It's like, well, I saw you had that sign up in your little studio that said "Mosh at your own risk." I was wondering where you got that sign.
Yeah.
I want it.
So that sign actually came from an old, like, venue church building, like, over on the north side.
It wasn't Alter. Oh no.
No.
Okay.
No. It was in the north side of Pittsburgh, like in Brighton Heights, and it was called BCA, but people called it the school. And that was probably where I spent most of my, like teen years, like, just growing up in that place, because it was like a skate park. It was...
Oh, one of those. Yeah. Skate park / concert venue.
Skate park / concert venue. And, like, you know, I went to, like, you know, like, youth group over there and stuff, too. And that is just kind of, like, what I grew up with. And I grew up, like, within, like, that Christian metalcore scene. So
yeah.
Now I'm in a death metal band that talks about quantum physics. So,
how do you reconcile? I mean, how do you reconcile that with your beliefs, or you just kind of compartmentalize? I mean, if you don't want to talk about your particular beliefs, I don't want to like out you about anything.
I mean, no, like I still consider myself like a Christian person. I definitely know I'm not perfect at all. But like I'm pretty accepting to like everybody, like whatever your background is. Like I'm not the judge of you. That's what it comes down to.
No.
I just, you know, I make riffs.
Riff Lord. I just can't believe though too, like Pittsburgh has a place for everything.
Yeah.
Like we have a metal themed coffee shop, we have a metal themed vegetarian place, we have a skate park church venue.
Yeah.
We have like a million former churches turned concert venues, and then now in the case of Altar Bar turned back into more churches.
Yeah, it's
sadly.
Crazy. It's crazy. It really is. And like there's a place for everybody in Pittsburgh, which is cool. I love this city. From like actually leaving it and like touring and stuff with like my old band, I've grown to really appreciate Pittsburgh a lot more. Just from, you know, being away, because like if you think about it, there's something to do different every day in this city. Like,
oh, totally.
You can eat out at a different restaurant, you know, for, you know, 6 months straight. And like you won't probably get a bad bite to eat anywhere at like any of those places that you go. Right. But there's also so many cool little neighborhoods and, you know, a lot of really cool people that you'll actually meet in Pittsburgh too. That I love the city. I don't ever foresee myself like moving outside of it. Like I want to be here. So.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm exactly the same way, because I went to college in Ohio for 4 years, and at first I was like, Pittsburgh's just boring. It's just like this blue-collar town, and I've grown up here. And then I went to Ohio, and when I came back, I just, as an adult, it's such a city of neighborhoods, and you can get a different experience everywhere. And like, it's big enough that it feels sprawling and exciting, but it's small enough that I can go to a show and I run into you, or I run into people, or I run into somebody I know, and it's just, it's very like, I don't know, it's almost like family oriented. You know, you kind of like fall in with your little scene, and it's like comfy.
For sure.
I was going to ask you on that note before I probably try to wrap things up. Do you have a favorite venue to play? Or is there like a big, like, you guys have never opened at Stage AE or anything, right?
No. Maybe one day. I
feel like you probably gravitate towards the smaller like bar, like intimate venues and stuff.
Yeah, for now. There's, you know, I would love to play Stage AE. That would be amazing. Maybe if like, you know, some band listens to this and like hears who Lewis Snyder is, maybe they'll be like, oh,
he's worth opening at Stage AE. Let him open at Stage AE.
Riparian.
You're a great guy.
Check out Riparian. That would be cool. No, I'll play anywhere. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'll play...
Did you guys start out doing house shows and stuff?
We've actually never played a house show.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we the first show we actually played at was at Black Forge, because Riparian's not that old of a band. We've been writing music and changing band members for like ever, because we've been trying to find like the right group of guys, but now we have the right group of guys to do it with.
Yeah.
But yeah, Black Forge was like our first show, and we had that back in like 2017.
Oh, yeah, you guys are really fresh. I thought you had been around the block a little longer.
No, yeah, like, that's why, like, this EP is kind of like a big deal, because now we're actually going to have, like, material people can listen to instead of listening to us at a show.
I'm just waiting.
And then being like,
just waiting for Spotify to happen,
that band
so
was
I can
cool.
Plug you everywhere.
Yeah. And, like, you know, at Brutal Beer Fest, that was kind of like a big awakening. Like, hey, we need to get like stuff now, like on like, because like there's people asking us like, do you guys have like music out? Because I want it. And
right.
Like,
I'm also one of those people. I would like to listen to your stuff.
And well, people bought shirts for us and stuff from us, and I think that's pretty awesome, because maybe that'll be like a little. Oh yeah, did that band come out with music yet?
Yeah. Well, hey, all in due time. But
yeah.
Do you guys have a release date for the EP?
What's today? The 5th.
The 5th.
The 5th of December. 5th. Okay. So
remember.
We actually just got our album art back, and we are doing the finishing touches on like the inside panels of the CD itself. Are you
doing a full thing, like CD, vinyl, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we're gonna do everything. Like,
great.
we're gonna try to do it right. We're gonna try. Try is the key word.
You will.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No, we have good people backing us up on this. But that is kind of the goal right there. Is just to like have everything ready and make sure everything is flawless before we actually release it. And
are you gonna try to do a release show too?
Oh yeah, there's totally going to be a release show.
Okay.
We are going to do that at the new Black Forge location.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
We have ideas already out for the release show, and I might as well, just start promoting it here right now. But Onion Maiden Brooks's restaurant is actually going to, be like a vendor at that show.
I love it. So wholesome.
Yeah.
All the Pittsburgh metal people.
North Country Brewing's actually going to bring the beer that we had for Brutal Beer Fest at that show, and we are going to serve it there. So,
Put that date on your calendar. I don't know what the date is, but stay tuned.
That date will be soon, for sure. We're definitely, like, within the next 2 weeks, I would say, from what is now, December 5th. We're going to probably have a music video out online. We're going to have, teasers and stuff. We just want the label to be comfortable with the amount of promotion that is out there for the actual record release. That's kind of like the inside scoop of what's happening, and I guess that's not inside anymore, but
it's outside now.
It's outside now, but it's what is needed to say. I'm very transparent whenever it comes down to that kind of stuff.
No, I'm glad, because you guys have a thing going, and like I've seen you live. I'm excited for what you get to promote next, and yeah, I mean, I know I guess I rely a lot on Spotify. That's how I kind of spread my love for it. And so I'm sort of like, damn it, I wish Lou's band was on Spotify so I could put you in a bunch of playlists. But I know you'll get there someday. Distro takes time, and that's how it is.
Yeah, for sure.
You gotta write the album first. Like, that's just how it is.
No, the album's already written. The material is recorded. Everything is ready to go. We just gotta have it in a little package and put together. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I basically have usually like 2 questions that I kind of wrap up with, and one of them is, if you personally, not so much your band, but if you personally could collaborate with any artist, who do you think it would be?
In Pittsburgh?
Just if you, like, dream situation, like if you had no financial limitations or awkwardness with the relationship of you to the artist, like, who's your dream person you would want to write something with?
Wow. Part of me wants to say Gojira, but I also want to go to my roots with that and just say System of a Down.
Really?
Yeah. I loved System of a Down. I would love to write some super, political gnarliness with them just because I like
Surge.
I love those guys.
They're great. That takes me back, man.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular album of theirs that you really liked? Like Hypnotize?
The self-titled, actually.
Self-titled,
the self-titled was my jam back in middle school. I don't remember how. I think what I did actually was I convinced some guy in Media Play to actually buy me the album, and then I'd meet him outside and he would give it to me right there. I think I gave him $5 to do it, because I wanted it so bad. I heard Toxicity from the X on the radio whenever I was in middle school, and I was just I need to do my research on this band and find out where they came from. This is their first album, and then they had the parental advisory on that, and I'm like, damn it, I'm not old enough.
Oh man, do you like Surge's solo work, or you're more?
Yeah,
okay.
I really like his solo work. I also like the fact that he did a collaboration with Buckethead.
I forgot he did that.
Yeah.
I've only just been recently getting into Buckethead.
I thought that was really cool. The song that he did with him.
Yeah. Buckethead is so versatile as a guitarist. I didn't know. All I think of when I think of Buckethead is playing Guitar Hero 2, and they had that song Jordan, which is always oh, this is how to prove your metal is to play Jordan on Expert on Guitar. That's all I thought Buckethead did, was just a shred guitarist, but
no, he's
I know he only has 250 albums, but there's one he has that's I don't remember what it's called, but it's blue and orange, and it's really emotional and ambient. It's brought me to tears. It's beautiful, and I just didn't expect that from a guy who wears a KFC chicken bucket on his head when he plays on stage.
So between System of a Down, if there was another artist that I can do a collaboration with,
You have two answers. It's fine.
I have two answers?
Sure.
Excellent. Okay.
No, I'm not gonna kick you out.
Devin Townsend.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That guy is just
What's your favorite Devi album? Heavy Devi. I know he has a million. And he has so many in so many different.
I can't pick one.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't pick one. I love a lot of the stuff that he Addicted. We'll say Addicted.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the female vocalist on that album.
Annika van Giersbergen.
Yes. I knew it was something real German.
Something
weird
really
that.
difficult to pronounce.
Yeah.
She comes up a lot in my chats.
But her vocals are incredible as far as female vocals.
Have you ever listened to? She's in a band, by the way, called Vor. VUUR. VUUR. It's just her singing with this prog metal background kind of thing. If you like her voice, check
I love
out.
her voice. I'm totally gonna check that out now that you said that. So send me what you got.
I'm all about the prog ladies,
yes.
And she's kind of one of the most incredible ones.
She has an incredible voice. And if I can do a collab with Devin Townsend and her at the same time and make just some epic symphonic metal album or song, even if it was 10 seconds, I would just be I would die so happy.
Well then, this is always my hardest question I think that I ask people, but if you could choose just 3 albums to listen to for the rest of your life and that was it, what do you think they would be?
Oh.
Could be old, could be new, could be whatever. If you were stuck on a desert island and you didn't have an unlimited data plan in Spotify and you just had to bring 3 with you, what would they be?
That's a vegan question I always get too. If you're stuck on a desert island, you have to survive.
What animal would you eat?
Yeah. Well, one, I've never been stuck on a desert island.
I didn't know that's a common vegan question.
That is a very common.
Well, if you weren't a vegan, what animal would be your favorite?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I've never
All
asked you
animals
that.
are my favorite.
Yeah.
That's why I don't eat them. 3 albums. Probably.
I know, it's a shitty question.
It's a hard
People
question.
get really... They're like, oh, I can't just choose 3. I can't even choose just 3.
I can't even try to name the first one that I would want, because that's
It doesn't have to be in order, but just
okay.
in general. I like to ask that question because
I think
I'm always curious if people ask, like, if they answer with, oh, this is the thing that got me into the instrument I play, or this is the thing that speaks to me the most, and it's the reason that I love music. I mean, you can always extricate some meaning from the answers.
I would definitely have to choose an Iron Maiden album. I don't know what one.
But
An Iron Maiden album.
Okay.
Just because Iron Maiden was one of the bands that made me want to play guitar. I'm gonna have to say Catch 33 by Meshuggah.
Oh, good choice.
That is my favorite Meshuggah album, actually. I love how all the riffs kind of like evolve into each other and kind of like tell a story throughout the whole. It's a concept album.
Mm-hmm.
I love how like it just like evolves through the whole thing. And I'm gonna say Mars the Sirius by
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Gojira.
I wasn't sure if it was gonna be that or Le Fond Sauvage. Like, I wasn't sure what your favorite.
That's a
Gojira
great album
was.
too, and it's honestly really hard to pick like just like one Gojira album.
You picked a good one.
Yeah.
Any album with whales flying in front of the moon is probably a pretty good album.
Yeah, it's a pretty epic album.
No, that's a good choice. I keep thinking about that. Have you seen the Bongo Cat meme?
No.
It's just like this little stupid anime cat, and it's like him playing the bongos, but somebody took that animation and they tracked it with the appropriate beats to the heaviest matter of the universe.
I do remember you sent that to me.
It freaking kills me every time.
It's so funny. My favorite like GIF meme ever is like the whale that comes out of like, the ocean and just like destroys like the city in front of it. All years.
Like immediately the riff starts playing in your head. It's just what it is.
It's one of the most badass riffs ever.
It is. Well, while I have you here, is there anything else you'd want to mention? You don't have to.
Check out Riparian.
Do that.
Check out Riparian. Add me on Facebook or Instagram, MySpace, if that's still around and the thing.
Well, Tumblr's gonna basically die after December 17th.
I know. So you cannot see any more of my pornographic images. Unfortunately. Not that I have any.
That's the perfect lead out. Oh, I definitely don't have any porn on Tumblr. You should have me on Facebook. But okay, well, yeah, Lou, thanks for letting me drink a beer in your house. I definitely got progressively drunker as the episode went on, and I'm gonna have to drink some water before I drive home.
I got plenty for you.
Play with your dog. So, yeah, I'll drop some links and stuff at the end. But thanks for letting me pick your brain. So,
well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Make sure you check out Riparian anywhere you can. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They're not on Spotify yet, but they do have their music on Bandcamp. And if you're in the Pittsburgh area, they definitely are out and about at shows and have their stuff to kind of check out there. So please drop by and just be ready to support them once they get some music out there. So thanks as always for listening. Until next time.